Senator Ted Cruz, how are you, sir?
Mark, I'm doing terrific. How are you this evening?
I'm doing very, very well. A couple of questions.
Sure.
This judicial nomination, I know you're very, very excited about Neil Gorsuch.
Yeah.
Well, the Democrats are going to filibuster. I mean, Schumer has said as much. So, to the best of your knowledge, are the Republicans going to go ahead and temporarily suspend the rule and vote it up and down?
Well, I don't know for sure, but I'll tell you what Mitch McConnell has asked Republicans to say, and I think this is a very good sign. Mitch has said for every Republican to simply say, Democrats will not succeed in filibustering the Supreme Court nominee. Judge Gorsuch will be confirmed. And to leave the procedural steps, there's all sorts of steps to get that done, but the bottom line is they're not going to succeed in stopping it. And I got to say, I'm very happy with that. I think that's the outcome we want.
You know, Chuck Schumer keeps talking about Merrick Garland didn't have an up or down vote. You know, for 100 years, presidents did not nominate for the Supreme Court within a year or so.
Yep.
Towards the end of a term. And yet Obama broke that rule, as he broke so many traditions. And so they're jumping up and down that they couldn't fill the Scalia seat with a liberal.
Sure. No, that's exactly right. They're trying to draw an analogy to Merrick Garland, but they're not comparable. That when Justice Scalia passed away in February of last year, it had been 80 years since the Senate had confirmed a Supreme Court justice for a vacancy that occurred in a presidential year. And what the Republican majority in the Senate did is at the time of Scalia's passing, in fact, the day he passed, we announced that we would not confirm any nominee, and we would we're in the middle of a presidential election, right in the heat of it. In fact, I remember when I found out the news that Justice Scalia had passed, I was preparing for a presidential debate that evening, and given that this seat, if it had been filled with a liberal, would have dramatically shifted the balance of power on the court. What we said, and I think it was the right thing to say, exercising our constitutional advice and consent authority, is we're going to leave it for the people. We, the people, are going to vote in November, and they can decide, do they want the next justice to be a principled constitutionalist who will be faithful to the law, or do they want a liberal judicial activist, which is what Hillary Clinton has promised? And the people did vote, and the vote was overwhelming, and this nomination of Judge Gorsuch is the direct result of that mandate from the American people.
Now, the Democrats have played both sides on this. On the first hand, as you know, Chuck Schumer was the leading filibuster advocate when it came to circuit court nominees under George W. Bush. Sure. I mean, he did it in a way that had never been done in American history, time and time and time again, or threatened to do it. Now, he's threatening to do it again. And then he complains that Garland never got a vote. So which is it? Is the problem that that only he can block nominees, and then if they get nominees, they must vote on them? I mean, the utter contempt that he has for the system is amazing.
Well, it is. Chuck Schumer is a political animal. And the Democrats right now, they are in a state of denial and a state of rage. I mean, there is just this billowing fury for the Democratic senators, but also for their base. We're seeing in the Senate they are trying to block every cabinet nominee. They're objecting to every procedural motion. They're just trying to slow it down. Now, they're not going to succeed. I believe we're going to confirm every single one of President Trump's cabinet nominees. But what the Democrats can do is delay it a little bit, drag it out a week or two. They have procedural avenues to slow things down, and their view, they cannot believe this election result, and they're angry at the American people. And I think that's a very unhealthy condition for Senate Democrats to remain in.
Are you concerned that two of your Republican colleagues, not to put you on the spot, but that two of your Republican colleagues have announced that they will vote against Betsy DeVos? Look, I'm a little lukewarm on her, but on school choice, she's superb.
Yeah.
And that on that is primarily the issue as to why they're not going to vote for her? I mean, do you think she'll still get through with Pence perhaps voting?
You know, I do. I think it's unfortunate that any Republicans are considering voting no. I got to tell you, I'm excited about the Betsy DeVos pick. I think it was a bold pick for the Department of Education. It would have been easy to go with someone from the education bureaucracy. And Betsy DeVos is someone who for 2 decades has been helping lead the fight for school choice nationwide. She has been a persistent and strong voice that every child in America deserves access to a quality education, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity or wealth or zip code. I think school choice is the civil rights issue of the 21st century. And part of the reason why the left is lighting their hair on fire at Betsy DeVos is they understand that she actually believes this, that she means it. And so you've got the teachers union. The union bosses are partisan Democrats, and they're terrified by choice. They're terrified by students and parents being able to have control over their futures. And so they are marshaling protests and phone calls, and they're trying to put pressure on the Senate, and I would certainly encourage my Republican colleagues, let's stand with the kids, let's stand with real parental choice for the future of kids and not listen to the political bullying of the left.
But I seem to recall that when you were challenging the leadership on other matters, you were trashed and you were defamed in the media, all kinds of leaks popping up, and I don't see that here. I don't see. You have 2 of your colleagues, and I'm not saying you should do that. I'm saying you have 2 of your colleagues who are going to make it extremely difficult by the skin of her teeth for Betsy DeVos to get through. Mm-hmm. And I hear nothing. Crickets. What's the big deal?
I think the next 2 years, Mark, we're going to have a lot of this. We've got a 52-vote majority that is narrow as all get out. And one of the reasons I'm excited about the next 2 years is I think the Senate is going to be the battleground. We are going to be fighting these fights, and what I'm working hard to do is to help lead the fight to accomplish what we promised the American people. I think confirming these cabinet nominees is a big, big step in that direction. I think Jeff Sessions as Attorney General is a fantastic step in that direction. I think confirming a strong constitutionalist like Neil Gorsuch to replace Scalia is a huge step in that direction. But these fights are going to keep coming, and it's going to take all of us standing together. And the message I just keep saying to my colleagues, to the administration, is let's do what we said we would do. Let's keep our word and deliver for the American people.
Mm-hmm. Are you being consulted by the Trump administration about things related to justice and the judge and so forth?
Quite a bit. I met with Judge Gorsuch today and had a very good meeting with him just as he's making his rounds on Capitol Hill. The White House consulted with me quite a bit before the nomination, and as one of the they did a good job of is seeking the advice and consent of the Senate throughout the process. And it's an interesting observation in terms of how they selected this Supreme Court justice. I think by any objective measure, this is the most transparent process for a Supreme Court justice maybe ever. I mean, if you think about it, during the campaign, the president put out a list of 21 people, and he promised he would commit from that list. I'm not aware of any prior presidential candidate who's done that. And then the voters had those 21 to vet. They had them in front of them when they went to the ballot box to vote. And indeed, Neil Gorsuch was on that list. I think he was one of the strongest members of that list. I think they chose particularly well. But this has been an open and transparent process throughout. And one of the things that has the Democrats really on their heels is 10 years ago, when Gorsuch was nominated to the Court of Appeals, he was approved by voice vote, which means not a single Democrat spoke up in opposition to him, and they're now finding a very difficult time to say, all right, well, what's changed? If they were okay with him being on the Court of Appeals, why are they suddenly now scared of a conservative on the Supreme Court?
In the next battle, should there be one, and I suspect there will, for another seat on the Supreme Court, it's going to be much bloodier than this one, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's likely that we will see 1 or even 2 more vacancies in the next 4 years. I could easily see another vacancy coming this summer. At the end of the Supreme Court term, I could see any of a number of justices choosing to retire this summer. And the next vacancy has the potential to really alter the composition of the court and to produce an enduring conservative majority, which means the left, the Democrats, will go absolutely nuts trying to prevent that. And so I think we're going to have, in all likelihood, we'll have a significant battle on Gorsuch, although they haven't figured out a good argument against him other than, gosh, we're Democrats and we only want liberals on the court. But the nomination after this, I think they will fire every weapon they've got to try to prevent principled constitutionalists from comprising a majority of the court.
All right, Ted Cruz, as usual, we appreciate it, my friend. Thank you very much.
You're a friend and a patriot, and thank you for defending and explaining the Constitution each and every day. It's needed now more than ever.
Well, I appreciate it. God bless, sir. Take care.